Hey, listeners, I have a real treat for you today. This couple, Dan and Danielle Macaulay, Danielle reached out to me and asked about being on the podcast. And when I saw her ministry or their ministry and their bio and everything, I knew they would be a perfect fit. So I know you're going to love Dan and Danielle. They do events and retreats and things. So hopefully, by the end of this, you'll be as excited as I am about possibly inviting them to come to your area. So, welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having us,
Thank you for
Carol.
having us.
Yes. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hmm.
Well, we have been married for 20 glorious years. And
Wow.
four that were like so-so. That's
Only
all.
four.
Man. But
That's great.
not in consecutively,
You begin
but
to negate
we
the
have we
jokes.
have
Here we are.
we have a day here and there and they add up. So
We've
20
been
and
married
4,
for
do the math.
24 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have two boys, 17 and 13, living down in Nashville, but we started out Canadian. So the two of us grew up about an hour apart from each other, and we met at summer camp.
hmm
And
Okay.
Now
now,
I robbed the cradle. She's actually,
most of
a
it.
bit younger than me, a bunch younger than me, and I actually made the mistake of telling her way too young that I thought that she would make a great wife someday. And
Someday.
she got on her tricycle and pedaled away so fast.
No, no, no,
Scared
no,
her to
no.
death.
I did literally, though, I said to him, Dan, I'm really, because I was 15 at the time, I'm really just interested in getting my license first. That's where my focus was. And I did. And
She
then,
did. She got her license.
then
Well, that was
when I was
important.
legal, we ended up
Oh,
together after all. There, I'm gonna,
wow.
I'm gonna get some jokes out of you too.
We actually became pen pals. I
Yeah.
followed up that very forward notion with an apology letter, and we actually became like actual pen on paper pen pals for
Before the internet.
like
Remember
Right.
those days? Yeah.
3 years really before we ever dated.
Hmm.
So we were just friends writing letters,
Yeah.
and yeah, we see the evolution of the letters going from friends to, and for her from like crayon to
Oh,
pencil
well,
crayon. Yeah, and then,
and
there wasn't a little sun in the top corner anymore.
okay, all right. But jokes aside, I still have that a box full of letters
I
that we
was going to
used to write
ask.
back and forth, and that is
Mhm.
like in the event of a fire, that is the number one thing, the first thing I'm grabbing, and pulling out with me. So very, very special
Yeah,
thing to have a gift for sure.
that is
And
great.
most of our married life, we've been down in the US. We have pastored in different areas, but most of the time we have been on the road full-time ministering, as you mentioned, to churches wherever we're invited. And
Yeah, I spent the bulk of that time. Some of it was a youth pastor, some of it a worship pastor, and writing, recording music, traveling, leading worship, teaching worship actually as well.
which is why we're down in Nashville.
Yeah, and I still do
Okay.
some of that, but the marriage thing, like speaking to marriages and stuff, has kind of crept up on us. About 7 years ago, some friends of ours, also in Canada, who had a background in television, started a marriage television show called A Better Us,
Mhm.
and they invited us to be a part of it, and right from the very beginning. And we were like, "Are you sure you want
Would
us?"
we
Like, I don't,
qualify for
we're not.
that? I don't know.
We're not, yeah, we weren't sure at first, but I mean, the format of the show was it's easy because the format of the show, they'd have an expert on, like Dr. Gary Chapman or Doctors
Mm.
Les and Leslie
Yeah.
Parrott or someone very good doing, a short teaching. And then it would go to us and a few other couples in the kitchen talking about what they were talking about. So we didn't have, we were just being real, being honest with what's going on in
We
our life
just
in
had
marriage.
to be open to airing all of our dirty laundry on national television. That's what we were signing up for.
And that kind of like oddly enough started us down this path of getting more and more into marriage ministry, learning more and more
Mhm.
from being associated with and jumping into all this amazing
And
teaching.
growing ourselves. Like we
We
often
always say,
say,
yeah, you say it.
I always say this has been the best thing for our
Yes,
marriage
it has.
is becoming a part of this marriage television show where we are ingesting constantly
Well,
material.
because it forced us to be intentional,
Yeah.
right? Whereas
Right.
I, especially as the guy, might have been before said, "Oh, we don't need to, we don't need to go to that marriage event. We don't need to. We're fine. Everything's fine. We're good, kind of thing." And then when you get into it, you're like, "Oh, we we could do better. I could
Mhm.
probably do
Yeah.
better on that.
And so this is what we are realizing when men come into, our live events, or, maybe their wife wants to listen to our
Just the men,
podcast.
because the women are already perfect.
We're
That's
basically
right.
perfect, yes.
Yes.
But to everything that we teach, we try to clearly add some lightness and humor, and realizing our whole ministry we called Married Up. And the idea is we want couples to remember why they first fell in love, that we make each other better. And so we both married up.
Hmm.
Mm,
Not one of us married up and the other one was like, he kind of married
yeah.
down. But we both have things that we saw in one another, that inspired us towards love and meeting each
And I saw
other.
it particularly young.
Yes, you did. And so our
Future tense.
our
And I
Yeah.
whole,
was right.
instead of like, you need to do better, you need to be better at this and all that, our hope is to inspire couples, to want to keep going and realizing, oh yeah, like I like this human being.
Most
There's
days.
good things most days.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's great because I think it's such an important thing. I mean, marriage, it feels like has, well, the nuclear family as a whole, it just
Mm.
feels like in our society today, it feels like it's trying to be destroyed. Like our
Absolutely
culture's
is.
going
Hmm.
against everything that makes strong homes and strong families. And so that's why, I really wanted to have you on here because we need all the help we can get. I
Yes, we
mean,
do.
like I was saying, I've been married 40 years. I still need all the help I can get after
Hmm.
40 years because as you go through different seasons, you have different challenges that you have to deal with.
Absolutely.
And you
Yeah.
don't, nobody tells you this stuff. You end up there and you're like, wait, are we the only ones? Or what's everybody else doing about this? Because nobody's talking about it. So
Hmm.
I think it's so important to have a ministry like yours. And I appreciate what you're doing very much. But I have to
Thank you.
say, after you reached out to me, I started looking at your Instagram, and y'all have the greatest Instagram. So everybody has to go follow you on. So
It's
it's
all
you.
him. He's the mastermind behind
You mean
Oh,
everything.
behind the scenes? She's the forward facing beauty of the
uh,
Instagram.
well, the you have like it's called You Married Up, right? Is that your Instagram?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. So, but the thing is, you have such wisdom in just these short little clips, and they're very energetic. And I think even men would enjoy, I'm not a man, but I would think that would even grab their attention to listen to these short little
I think
episodes,
so.
That's
little,
a high
As a man, I
compliment.
agree with you.
well, I do too. So, but have you always had Instagram? Has that just started recently? How do you come up with all of this content?
Well, a lot of what you see on there are part and parcel of what we talk about on some of our shows. In fact,
Hmm.
some of the clips in there are little cuts from
Yeah.
the live shows,
Hmm.
and then other ones are from other bits of teachings that we do. Like
Hmm.
we have certain things that we tend to talk about in a date night context, and then we have kind of a more diverse group of topics that we'll bring in, and when we're doing a whole weekend. And so, anyways, we'll take. It's often been me that writes like the little, script and try and boil down. Okay, how can I fit this in a minute so it's in a
Mm.
reel, and try and say it really succinctly and snappy or whatever, and
Hmm.
keep it within that real kind of context,
Yeah.
and but keep it interesting, keep it, moving and.
Well,
Hmm.
you're good with your hooks. I mean,
Yeah.
the hooks, because you'll have that on there'll be like a caption over the photo or something. And I'm like, wow, because it makes you want to click on it. So
Hmm.
you have several things that have come up. And one of those things is, what does losing those loving feelings not
Mm,
mean? Because you
mm.
talk about feelings several times that I've seen in some of your posts.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the date night events, I typically do like a montage of love songs, and we'll say one of the songs we don't do in that is "You've Lost That Love and Feeling" because we don't, no one wants to sing that one in that, in a date night context.
Right.
But yet it's so common, and in this day and age, people's or the world will tell you, or common thought process will tell you, well, just follow your feelings. Whatever you feel, just go do that thing, right? And it's actually really the worst possible advice, because I don't know
Yes.
about you, but my feelings go up and down depending
Mhm.
on whether I've had my coffee, or whether I've had my second coffee, or whether I'm hungry, or whether I'm hangry, or all
Mhm.
of those kinds of things, right? And so following your feelings is terrible advice, actually.
Right.
But the good news is we don't have to follow our feelings. We can lead our feelings. And the
Mhm.
good news, when we find ourselves in a place where we maybe aren't feeling super lovey-dovey like we did with our spouse, when we saw them across the hall and you were like, pitter patter, let me at her, right? Those when we saw like those kinds of like feelings usually tend to only last about 2 years, studies show, at best. But then
Mhm.
beyond that, we have to work at building something that's a little bit less surface level and a little deeper. So when we find ourselves in a spot where we've lost those loving feelings, the good news is that that's not the end of your marriage, and you don't have to live in a loveless marriage for the rest of your life. But the good news is you can actually get them back.
Mhm.
And the way that you can get them back is go back and do some of the things that you did back when you were feeling that way. And even more than that, not do those specific things, but do new things together. Danielle will often talk about having fun together on a night. You want to say something about that? Because
Oh,
I'm
well,
hogging
yeah.
all the oxygen
No,
here.
sure. I mean, fun. Clearly, we like to have fun, and friendship is such a huge, like the underrated glue that holds marriage together is,
Mhm.
are you friends? Do you enjoy each other? And the idea of having fun, going out on date nights, trying new things, doing adventurous things. Like I know for Dan, that's super. Like when we went, we did a podcast ourselves and talked about what are our highlight moments of our life together, and every single one for him, because this is especially huge for the husbands, is adventure, trying something new, funny, which is why we try to laugh a lot. All that stuff is huge in marriage, and we can use that as leverage to strengthen our marriage. It doesn't always have to be the PhD things and learning, and a lot of what we
Oh
do,
yeah.
like for the Instagram page when you were talking before, is a lot of that is just those kind of things that we've learned out of necessity because of what we're doing. We want to, maybe we can listen to all that and then make it really practical for you and something you actually want to learn about and do. And fun is one of those things. There's actually been a lot of studies on it.
Yeah, when you do something fun or something fresh and new together, you get the dopamine that's
Yes.
associated
Yeah.
with doing that thing, whether it's bungee jumping or just trying a new Mexican restaurant that you've never been to. There's a spark of excitement because it's new. And when you do that with your spouse, your body associates, your mind
Mhm.
associates those two things. So that's one way, doing something new, but just even going back and doing some of the things that you did at the beginning naturally.
Yeah.
When we're married, we have to be a little bit more intentional to do some of the things that just we did naturally back when we were in that kind of more infatuation kind of level. Now it takes a little bit more proactivity to think about what I can do for them and how I can little choices, tiny little choices that say I love you instead of I love
Mhm.
me.
And we find that a lot of couples say, "Well, I'm not feeling in love with them," but we often say, "Right feelings follow right actions."
Mhm.
Mhm.
So maybe if you haven't been doing the things that you're supposed to do, maybe you're, like, as Dan said, the things that you might have done when the man was chasing the girl, but maybe he still needs to keep chasing her, even though they've been married for
Yeah.
40 years.
Mhm.
And eventually, what happens is when we do the right things, and this is all of life, you think about that with exercise and wanting to get healthy. And like, we don't feel like it when we're sitting on the couch, but after maybe a week or two of getting up and doing what we know we're supposed to do, we end up feeling so much better. And because we're reaping the rewards of those choices. And it's the same thing in marriage,
Mhm.
is you start doing the things, even if you have to drag yourself into it, but eventually you'll go, huh, I'm reaping the rewards of this.
Right,
Now I feel
because
like it.
feelings follow focus. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
when you do that focus, your feelings will eventually catch up. And overall, I think the important thing to remember is that love is not a feeling. I think that's another thing the world kind of gets a little messed up. It's about
Mhm.
what we do in spite of how we feel. And in
Yes.
a marriage, we're under this covenant that covers us while our feelings over the years will go up and down. They naturally will. Doesn't mean your marriage is broken. Doesn't mean you married the wrong person. There's just seasons in marriage, and it's that covenant that protects us through all those ups and downs, both the low points and the high points. They're fun, but
Hmm.
we're going to have both, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. So let me throw you a curveball.
Hey,
Okay.
So, what if you really struggle to find things, even new things, that both of you like want to
Hmm.
do? Like, my husband is very adventurous. He would probably bungee jump, which I'm terrified of heights. He loves zip lining, and
Hmm.
I just cannot do that. And I really, one time I said, okay, I'm going to try this. And actually, we were in Nashville and there was well, he thought it was a zip line, but it was a ropes course.
Okay.
And that was the worst thing I've ever done in my entire
oh
life.
Oh
no.
no.
It was like
But
an
you did
army
But
it,
you did
challenge.
and
it.
you did it for him.
Yes.
I did. But while I was in the middle of it, so the guys on the ground were watching me because like we have two kids and our son was married at the time. So there's all of us going across, grabbing this rope with this wooden stump on the bottom that we're trying to, maneuver our way through. And the guys that worked there were looking up and they're like, she's not going to make it. She's really not going to make it. And I was like praying. I'm like, God, if you get me off of this, I promise I'll never do anything like this again. So thankfully, there was a break where we had to get down and go to another one. And I got off, and they were like, that was probably a good call for you to go ahead and get off. But, I did try. I did try. But
But he
he
must have
don't like that.
appreciated that you tried, right?
Yeah, he did
It's really
appreciate
about
it.
finding little ways to enter into each other's world and
Hmm.
Yeah.
try them out. And we might not, love every single one, but so maybe it's like you go bungee jumping and you watch him bungee jump and you
Okay.
cheer
Yeah.
him on and you video him
I can
and
do
you
that.
post about him and say, "Hey, look what my husband did. He's so brave," So you've
Hmm.
kind of found a way to enter into his world. You supported him in it in that example but you don't have to be the one that's jumping.
And I think I hear you. Like there are, often we marry our polar opposite,
Yes.
and that happens for us as well.
Very much.
Let's just use television shows or entertainment as an
Oh my gosh,
example,
that's the
even down here,
worst. Trying to
where,
find something.
I love Hallmark movies, and Dan is, he'll sit down and for me watch one with me every once in a while, but I know it's not at the top of his list.
Right.
Usually what he's watching when I walk in, there's somebody being tortured or murdered,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I can't handle that. So really, what we've figured out over the years is let's probably not do those things together. Let's find another show like a comedy or like there's different shows that we can watch and laugh
Compromise.
together
Yes. Yes.
that I don't have to be subject to the torture. He doesn't have to be subject to the interrupted kiss in Hallmark. Um, and we find like a middle ground of like, this is what we enjoy. And the same with like physical fitness. Like if he enjoys it one way, if I enjoy doing something another way. Well, we just discovered pickleball and he got into it. And I was like, I'm not quite as into this, but I'm going to become into this because it's something I can do. And I'm
Mhm.
going to do
Mhm.
that because he seems interested in it. And same way, like even for our kids, my son is obsessed with baseball. And for many years, I'm like, baseball is like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
Well, in the last couple of years, thankfully his team has been really doing well, so it's
Oh,
been
good.
engaging. But I'm like something like that where it's not like torture from like it's not insulting me to watch or hurting me to watch. I'm gonna do it because I love him and I'm gonna do my best to step into his world, as Dan
And
said.
and overarching, I actually think that plays into kind of our grand scheme kind of thought process about marriage, and that is that it's in those compromises, it's in those dying to self and
Mm,
preferring the other, learning to do that. We come together as two very different people, and we learn to prefer each other. We learn to sacrifice for each other,
Yeah.
and we will often say that like a lot of people have an idea in marriage that they're going to come into marriage, and the idea is that this is going to be fulfilling for me. This is going to make me happy.
Hmm.
And we actually say that your spouse is a tool. Um, they're a tool in God's hands to use to make you more like Christ. That the purpose of your marriage is actually something that God's ultimate will for you is to make you more like Christ. And so the idea of learning to be more sacrificial, love is not selfish. It's not prideful. It's not all the Corinthians 13 kind of things.
Right.
It's that rub of every day. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go film the bungee jumping, or I'm going to watch Hallmark today, or whatever. It's that
Mhm.
little bit of dying to self, preferring the other, where we become less, and we learn what it is to actually give ourselves for
Hmm.
somebody else.
And we all know you would as well, like both marriage and parenting suck all of the selfless or all of the selfishness out of you. It's just a lesson in being selfless, and that's actually a good thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As you were talking, I was thinking I had a friend years ago, and because it was so funny because we both had this little thing that was, you talk about an annoying habit maybe that your spouse
Hmm.
might have that really drives you crazy. Well, for a while, I mean, I'm the late night owl. My husband's the early bird and all that. So for a while during our marriage, he wouldn't lock the door at night. Like he wouldn't lock up, make sure all the lights were off, all that kind of stuff. And that annoyed me. And I noticed that a friend of mine who's about the same age had been married a little less than me. That was annoying her to like a great degree. Like
Mm.
it really irritated her that he wouldn't, I guess, be the man and lock the house up at night. And I noticed started pointing out more and more and more things that were irritating her about him. And then we lost touch for a while. And then I found out later that they had gotten divorced. And that
Mm.
was that one little thing that had started, that one little irritation that he would not lock the door at night, that she felt like she was responsible for her family's safety at night. I guess that whole provide and
Yeah.
protect kind of thing. It just deteriorated into the whole
Hmm.
marriage just falling apart. And I know you talk about being annoyed, the annoying habits. So can you talk about that a little bit more, Dan?
Yeah. Well, listen, I kind of have a similar story, and there's different things. I might have be that type A, like everything needs to be just so, but there was something the same way, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? Where Dan would never close the shower curtain, and it drove me crazy. And this is something that happens every day. He thankfully showers every day.
Thank
And to
goodness.
me, I'm like, come on, mold's going to grow on the shower curtain, and this, put it back. And finally, I just realized something. I can either make this my pet thing, my pet annoyance, and live frustrated with him continually, or I can just close the curtain. And then
Mm.
I'm deciding I'm the one that's going to do that. If it bothers me, it's me.
Also, I mostly close the curtain now.
Ah, well, see, it
Not
worked.
always.
Mostly.
But here's the thing. Our marriage can drastically change without changing anything. And you want to know why? Our minds.
Mm.
What we choose to decide to think about, because it is a choice,
Yes.
affects everything. Our mind is the most powerful weapon we have, either for good or bad in our marriage, and really all of life.
Mm.
We know that. And so I kind of liken it to like our brains kind of like our Netflix account or our Hulu account, or you were talking about Instagram, like our Facebook or Instagram
Mhm.
feed, in that what we choose to click on, we will then get more of that back. That is how our brain is hardwired to work. I know Dr. Caroline Leaf talks a lot about how the brain works, and I've learned that over time is that we can literally forge patterns in our brain based on what we choose to think about.
Mm.
And so, when if you have Netflix or Hulu, often when you go and watch something, if I watch a Hallmark movie, the next time I turn the channel on and I go to that, all of a sudden there'll be a bar across that will say, because you watch this,
Hmm.
we think you'll like this, and it will give me more options of that. So then all I have are Hallmark movies. That is
Right.
exactly what was happening to that woman you described. Is she decided to focus in on that one annoying thing, and all that did, it made it grow bigger and bigger and bigger
Mhm.
to eclipse all the other wonderful things that were about her spouse.
Yeah, it tends to be a matter of what you find. We tend to find what you're looking for.
Hmm.
Whatever you focus on, you see more of that, right? It's
Yeah.
called confirmation bias, where our brains are constantly trying to prove the hypothesis that we've made. So we've decided our spouse is such and such, and it's like our brains are constantly look for evidence to prove, yep, there it is. Oh, I see. Look it, there they are again. Oh, yep, they did it again. And we're trying to constantly prove our own thought process is right to show
Yeah.
you, look, I'm right. And so the Gottmans did this study where they found that couples who approach the other spouse with a negative mindset, they caught all the negative things that their spouse actually did. The things that were neutral, they weren't positive or negative, they interpreted them as negative because of their filter, and
Mm.
they didn't even see all the positive things that their spouse actually did. So we try and encourage people to kind of flip that on its head and look for the good, think good,
Hmm.
assume the best, give your spouse the benefit of the doubt, and you'll catch the good things, and you'll interpret the neutral things as good because they probably meant well. They don't, they're not out to get me. And
Mhm.
then, some of the negative things, rather than focus on them, they kind of like faded away. And suddenly you've changed your whole marriage just by changing your brain and your
Hmm.
thoughts alone. Like your spouse, even if I never ever changed the or shut the shower curtain again, in Danielle's example, it wouldn't be overpowering for her because she's chosen to not let
Hmm.
it be. So whether your spouse changes or not, you can change your marriage.
And so my advice to that woman would have been, before it ended up the way it did, was, for me, I follow God's word. I use that for wisdom, and I know He tells us in Philippians to think about things that are good and lovely and honorable and righteous and lovely and all these. He's basically saying, because He knows He created our brains and how they work, He's
Hmm.
saying, think about the good things, because
Yeah.
that is what your tendency will be to go toward. So I would encourage her to get practical and every single day get out a pen and paper, jot down some good things about your spouse, because there is good. And all of a sudden, what will happen is those good things will shrink the smaller things, and they'll be small enough to handle and small enough to forget about.
Hmm.
Mm. Yeah, that is good. Focus on the don't major on the majors and minor on the minors, you know.
Yes. They're all decisions. They're all decisions we
Hmm.
make.
I think that's so important because it is a decision. You know, you don't have to go down this path that's going to destroy your marriage. You can lean another direction and try
Hmm.
something new, like you're talking about, the things that you think about. So, yeah, I think that's really, really good. And I love that, you know, things that can be annoying, we can, I will say my husband now, as I'm sitting here thinking about all this, so now he's the one that locks the doors at night. But now that I'm thinking, the kids, when they were here and they were coming in late at night and I was awake, well, it makes sense. He was in bed, so I would be the one to lock up and things like that.
Mm.
So when you start thinking rationally, it's like, okay, well, that does make sense now. So, so
Totally.
yeah, try to think through the whole process of why things are the way that they are. So that's
Hmm.
really good. So
Mhm.
on one of your Instagram things, you had something about the egg project that you, Dan, did in high school. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that just kind of came as a way to illustrate really how fragile not that your spouse is fragile, but the Bible says that the tongue is like a fire. It can start a fire, it can break a bone, or it can heal. So we were going for the idea of the power of the tongue, and the idea with the egg is that when I was in, I don't know, I think I was a junior in high school, we did this project. It was actually in parenting class where we had a little egg and we had to carry it around, for the week and protect it, just to get used to the idea of what it would be like to carry, a fragile baby and
So what
have to like.
it wasn't hard boiled. It was just a
No, it was not hard boiled. And so we had to protect it. And we just use that as an example to show what if we approached our most important relationship that we have with the idea of rather than I can be rough and tumble, I can speak my mind, I can be blunt, I can be brutal, I can say the toughest things to them. Rather than go that route, realize, well, if I want this to last forever, maybe I need to treat it a little bit more gently. And it's not that we walk on eggshells around our spouse, but we're,
Right.
a little more gentle. Because the truth is, yes, they've committed to be with us forever, but the truth is that the closer you are to someone, the more easily you can hurt them with your words. Like I know everything about Danielle. I know the things that I could say that would really crush her, and
Okay.
likewise the other way. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so because we love each other, we're going to be careful and not do those things. So there's a way to be honest without being brutally honest. We don't have to have the brutal, maybe so.
Mhm.
We can be honest, but in love. And so that's
Mhm.
kind of the idea of that.
Yeah, sometimes we can get our ideas completely flip-flopped in that because we think this person is here for good, we can give our best to everyone else, to
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
bank teller, to the teacher, the coach, the coworkers. We put on our best self for them, but no, we're just gonna be and yes, we want to be ourselves and authentic and be comfortable in the space, but
Right.
often it's to a fault. It is I can say whatever I want. I know they're going to be here anyway, or I can just give them my leftovers, not give them the best version of me, but really we should be striving. And that doesn't mean we have to always, keep everything inside or not be honest, but just in the way that we do it, we should handle them more with care because if they're the most valuable person to us on the planet, why would we not treat them then that way?
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I know so many times, especially as I've gotten older, like I might have like a smart remark come to mind, but then I literally bite my tongue because I'm like, if I say that, that's just gonna create more friction between us, and that's not what I want. I want us to
Yeah.
Mhm.
come closer together, and so I need to make sure that my mouth follows that example,
Mhm.
and I
Yep.
don't say those things, but I'm not perfect at it, of course. I used to be really bad about
Mhm.
speaking my mind, and that just it just created all sorts of tension and chaos and anger and frustration, and sometimes we just need to be quiet and
Mhm. The
let
Bible
God use
compares
that.
Yeah, the Bible compares the tongue, such a little thing, to like the rudder of a ship. Such a
Hmm.
little thing compared to the whole ship. And yet that little thing can steer a whole ship. So like you can very much steer your marriage and certainly the tone in your home by
Hmm.
what you choose to let come out here.
Mhm.
And not only the words you say, but the way you say it can really elevate the tone or it can sink the tone of your whole
Hmm.
household
Yeah.
actually. So yeah, getting this guy under control is a big one.
And no one's going to get it right all the time. We don't want to
No.
have, say this in judgment by any means because we
No.
ourselves, but striving for progress. Like you said, I used to be worse and now I've improved and that's the best that we can do is just trying our best every day. And we will not always succeed, but we always will try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the trying, that's the important part, that we're both working together to try to make a healthier, happier marriage. That's what's
Hmm.
so important. So I want to dive a little bit deeper here and talk about the differences, how men and women deal with intimacy differently. So can we talk
Mm.
Hmm.
about that?
Sure.
Yeah, I think the little reel that you're mentioning talked about how typically women need to feel emotionally connected and
Hmm.
intimate
Mhm.
before they want to be physically intimate,
Right.
whereas men actually feel more intimately connected, emotionally connected after they've had physical intimacy. And so it
Mhm.
becomes like
There's
this,
clearly
there's
a
another
clash
egg.
there.
This comes like the chicken or the egg thing, which is going to
Yeah,
come first, right?
that's right. It's this cycle.
So who gets
Yeah.
who, and this is another part of why marriage is that back and forth, that
A
give and
lesson
pull,
of
that
selflessness. Yeah.
selflessness. And really, I think it's by God's design. in that physical intimacy is more than just body parts coming together,
Mm.
right? It's more than that, and the whole idea of intimacy is giving and taking for each other. So it kind of like the whole idea of physical intimacy requires some give and take.
Hmm.
Sometimes, it might mean, well, as a guy, what we like to say for the guys, this is your chance to lead. Not in the sense of like, your body's my body and I
Oh,
deserve
no.
it, or I'm the head of the household, or any
Yeah.
any of that kind of stuff. But why not lead if you know this about your spouse, that she wants to feel emotionally connected to you, and then lead the way into making sure that that is an important and prioritized part of your marriage. There's another sentence that we often talk about in the context of when we're talking about this in live context is that let me just say it right, and you can interrupt me if you remember it ahead of me. But like, she's like, how
I
long is it
say a
going to take
lot of
them to get
things
it?
on this subject,
I
so
do. That that
ask not.
no, no. I know where you're going. Yeah, no, it's the simple idea that communication and
Mm,
open and honest communication actually has the same level of fulfillment for her that physical intimacy has for a man. So
Mm.
if I understand the way that I feel after we've been physically intimate, and then if I want that for her, and in the give and take, I want to make sure that I open up my heart, that I
Mm.
communicate with her, that I spend time to make sure that she feels connected to me, that I've let her tell me all the things,
mhm.
however long it takes.
But wives definitely know how to sniff out when you're just doing that for as a
That's
means to
right.
an
Yeah.
end. And so
Oh yeah, mile away.
so that we can sniff that out, definitely. So I think the general thought process is we give. We start by giving.
Yeah.
If we go into intimacy with the idea of I am aiming to give, um, it will come back to you, but that is not the reason that we give. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. The golden rule of ask not what, well, no, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That applies in the bedroom too,
Yes.
right? And the idea of like giving and coming into an intimate relationship with the idea of looking to serve the other. And if serving the other means making sure that she feels, intimately connected to me,
Mhm.
but so that, or if it means that there's so many open tabs in her brain with all the different things that are going on in the house, that if I
Very
can
likely.
that if I can make sure that the kitchen is tidy or the other things, that helps
Mhm.
her close a few tabs, and that's serving her, again, not driving towards a transactional thing. Well, I'm going to do this so that I'll get sex, but
Right.
in not with that motivation, but the motivation of helping serve her, and maybe it'll lead to something good, maybe.
And how he jokes, to sum this up, how he will joke that same phrase, ask not what you can do for your country or what your
No.
country can do
Yeah.
for you, but what you can do for your country applies in the bedroom too. If we just, aim to please and to serve, it will then serve us.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes. So, do you have any suggestions for women as far as that goes?
Hmm. I mean, that completely just goes right straight to the women as well, is if we know that this is something important and valuable to him, often if women just don't feel in the mood, the best question they can ask themselves
Hmm.
is it important enough that I can get into the mood for?
Am I open
Am
to
I
being in the
open to
mood?
being in the
Yeah.
mood? And so because I know it's important to him in this moment, I'm going to make it important to me as well. And again, not in any of those toxic, dysfunctional ways
Right.
that are not healthy, but in a loving, safe relationship, absolutely.
Yeah, I think sometimes we have this idea because we've seen it in everything but Hallmark, because the sex doesn't exist in the Hallmark universe apparently, but like but like in any kind of portrayal of that, it's like you're getting a hot and panting and kissing and making out and all this stuff leads to it, and well, I'm not there yet, but really I think it's about starting with connecting,
Hmm.
and maybe it leads to those kind of things, right?
Hmm.
So you start with simple connection. If you want to call it foreplay, then that's great, but that might just be having a conversation. It might be cuddling up and watching a Hallmark or something. And then, who knows where those things lead. And if you were open to that and, open to them
Hmm.
leading somewhere, then that's, a good thing rather than saying, well, I'm not really, feeling sexy right now. Okay,
Mhm.
well, maybe an hour from now you might.
And really, just in general, all of this, there's so many ways that we can have foreplay throughout the day. And I even mean that to be just to be attracted to one another. And so that could mean, hey, ladies, like we know he doesn't need a second mom. We don't need to nag and these things. We can make each other desirable to one another all throughout the day to get us to that spot.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, because it isn't just a switch like that always.
Right.
Well, it is for us.
It is
I
for
was.
men, but it's not for women. So, and I think men need to know that.
Mhm.
More of a dimmer switch.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that would crock pot. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, crockpot.
Hmm.
So, Danielle, something that I saw that you were talking about is why you shouldn't always be right in your marriage. Can you talk about that?
Well, the reason I talk about that is because in the past I am very competitive and I just love to be right. It is
Mm.
true. It is true. And most of the time I
She's right about that.
am. But what we've discovered is that if there is a clear winner or a clear loser in an argument, really we both lose. If I,
Mhm.
come out and I'm like, I showed him, if we walk out of an interaction like that, that's actually not a good thing. If I'm
Right.
like, I showed him, I'm right, we're not
At what
unified.
cost?
Yeah,
Yeah, at what
Yeah.
we're
cost?
not actually intimate and unified. And so we just have kind of adopted a phrase that reminds us to fight for unity and not the win, to
Mm.
remember that we're on the same team. We
Mhm.
choose relationship over rightness or
Mm.
over being right. Like this relationship is more important to me than always being right. And not only that, it's not only better if we can do that, if we can work on a problem, like if there's an issue, rather than putting it between us, if we can push that thing out here, remember, oh yeah, like we're on the same team
Mhm.
and we're going to attempt to tackle the problem instead of one
Right.
another.
We're good. This is fine, but
Yeah.
we're going to get that
How are
thing
we going to
together.
solve
We
this?
have a common enemy.
Yes.
So we're on the same team. This is the common enemy that we're going to solve
Yeah.
together.
And if we can reframe and rethink that way, everyone wins. And not only do we win, but everyone else around us who shares the same
Right.
space as us, in the same home as us, they win too. Because at what cost did it get me? Did it cost me to be right? Like at what level, voice level or time away level where we're not interacting and talking, it isn't worth it. And so
Mm.
we have to just remember that we're on the same team. We're going to fight for unity stronger and harder than we are to just be right about something. And it makes a world of difference.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think we need to remember that, the Bible tells us that we're not fighting against flesh and blood. We're
Yes.
fighting against Satan. Satan
Hmm.
doesn't want our marriages to be happy and healthy and fulfilled because
So
that is the
right.
thing he hates more than anything because there's such
Hmm.
stability there. So
Yeah.
I, it's again, it's like you were saying earlier, it's like the dying to self that if
Hmm.
I don't have to always be right, then that's a way that you do have to die to yourself. But then your spouse is going to notice that, hey, wait,
Hmm.
she doesn't always have to be right all the time anymore.
Hmm.
And that's something I think the older you get, I was always kind of that way, like, this is the way you do it. But the older I get, the more I'm realizing, you know what, Carol, you don't always have to put your 2 cents in. People can
Hmm.
Mm.
figure things out and you don't have to be a part of it. You don't have to, and even with your kids, sometimes, sometimes you've got to step back, and
Yeah.
as hard as it is, there might just be, not anything dangerous or horrible, but you know that this is probably not going to end well. But you try to lead and guide as much as you can, but then you're like,
Hmm.
okay, but you get the final decision once they're, to a certain age, of course. But yeah, I
Yes.
think that just shows as you get older, God humbles you, I
Hmm.
think, a
Hmm.
lot more, and you realize how important that is.
Hmm.
So, but I want to talk about your book, The Triangle Effect.
Hmm.
So, can you
Mm.
Yeah.
share about that, and maybe share a devotion or two theme that you've got in there?
Yeah. We wrote the Triangle Effect just this past year, and the idea, and we kind of like the
It's a
idea that
couple's devotional,
yes, a
we
couple
should say.
devotional, the mysteriousness of the idea of the triangle effect with a Twilight
It's a
Zone
little
cover,
Twilight Zoney,
but
yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
a simple concept and not one that we really invent. That I think a lot of people would have heard. The idea
Mhm.
with the triangle is that God's at the top and the husband and wife are down here, and that the closer you come to God, the closer you end up being together. And that's
Right.
really the simple. That would be the point of a couple's devotional, I think, to us, is
Hmm.
that the husband and wife both are on a journey closer to God, which is bringing them closer together. So the devotions in here are kind of designed to do both. They're designed to bring you closer to God and closer together because they're based around coming closer to God, biblical Bible study, but around marriage topics for the most part.
Hmm.
And honestly, one of the things we like to say is that one of the best things you can give your spouse is a healthy you, right?
Mhm.
So that encompasses everything, of course, but spiritually healthy being among the best,
Right.
right? Who wouldn't want to be married to someone who acts like Jesus? Right. So the
Hmm.
more that any one of us becomes more like Christ, the better we are to be married to.
Yeah.
We'll often ask, have you ever thought what it's like to be, married to you? Like, what is it like to live on the
Do,
other
do, do,
side of
do,
you?
do, do, do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea of a Bible study at all, or one of the Bible studies, or one of the entries in there, we call fruit farming, and the idea of that is that for one, the Bible is not a self-help book. So
Mm.
the Bible, sometimes we treat the Bible like a self-help book. Like I'm going to read
Right.
the scriptures and I'm going to find, and then I'm going to really try hard to be good. And I'm going to try hard to do these things and take the advice of the Bible. And that's not at all what the Bible was intended to be. In fact, the Bible is actually the exact opposite. All the Old Testament and all the laws and all the rules revealed to the Israelites and revealed to us that they were hopelessly incapable of keeping all those rules and
Yep.
possibly being good enough. And so
Right.
Jesus came and was the covering for all of that. But
Mhm.
the good news of it is that it's not about trying to be good and trying to do all the things that ultimately the way we farm fruit or grow the fruit of the spirit in our life is to just simply come closer to Jesus. So our last season of our podcast, we have a Married Up podcast, and the last season of it, we did every episode following the First Corinthians chapter 13 scripture. So
Mhm.
every episode was love is patient. The next one was love is kind and all those. And as you go through those, you see quite a correlation between in Galatians where it talks about the fruit of the spirit. And so the
Right.
idea is these are not a list of things that we should try and be more like. It's the idea of simply as we get closer to Jesus, we become more like him. We
Mhm.
become like that which we behold, like the one who we worship. And when we spend time in his presence, these things naturally come out of us. Naturally become more patient. It's not about me trying to be patient and like gritting my teeth and counting to whatever, although, practical tips are good, but it's about spending time with Jesus. These things naturally begin to just become who you are. And
Mhm.
that's actually the best way to become a better spouse.
Yeah, and he did such a great job at summing it up. But all I'll add is that we did our best to make these good bite-sized pieces, chunks.
Mhm.
They're short and sweet, to the point, And we try to have, some fun and laughs along the way as well, because we know sometimes the guys are getting dragged in a little. But as we
Mhm.
were saying before, it's just the women, there's something built into us that have a little more alarm bells. Like we need to do better. We need to work on this, all of that. So maybe the ladies are kind of dragging their husbands along, but we're hoping that they're going to eventually be okay on the ride and go, you know what, this is actually good for us.
We
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
did our best, guys, to make it less painful for you to come on the journey. That was our goal the whole
Well,
way.
Yep.
can you share some of the fun things that you're talking about in there?
Oh, well, I right off the bat, there's
The communication
yeah,
camera. I
there's
thought you
one
might go there.
right at the beginning that we talk about the importance of communication, and I'll just share this really quick fun story from our own, and we've learned to be self-deprecating. We're okay with sharing our foibles, and we've already admitted that I'm competitive. I like to be right naturally. But we have this funny story of when we first were becoming parents and Keaton, our oldest, was born, and we realized we need to have like a nice camera. So back in the day, and this was really before iPhones and all that, we got
Mhm.
the Canon camera. I told him, go out and get a good camera, and that he did. Good
You have
husband.
no idea what that meant.
And so it wasn't until years later, and we took wonderful photos that I'm so happy that we have. And then years later, we decided to do a garage
Well, because
sale.
then iPhones came along and
Yeah,
stuff,
it
and
Yeah,
was,
then
nobody
and
it
needed it
wasn't,
carted
anymore.
well,
around,
not
and
so
I
much,
thought,
not unless you're, a real
I'm
photographer.
just gonna sell this camera at the garage sale. And I did. And a guy offered me $80 for it. And I was like, that is amazing. Like, you don't sell too many things for $80
At
at
a
a
garage
garage
sale.
sale.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was happy. And I came to him and I said, I'm so pumped. We got rid of that camera. I got $80 for it. And I was so happy. And he said to me,
$80. I spent $1,000 for that camera.
and I said, $1,000? And so both of us had not, like, I had no idea. I never communicated what
You
I
said
thought
buy a
was
good
a
camera.
good camera. I had no idea he spent that kind of money. And then he had no idea that I just sold it for $80. And it was just like this moment of like clearly realizing we had miscommunicated. We weren't on top of that. And then we lead into, just some more helpful tools for having some productive, healthy communication. So
Mhm.
yeah, been there,
Yeah.
done that.
Yeah, another one on here is about we call it the greenest grass, and it's simply about the idea of not getting caught up in comparison.
Mhm.
Like don't look at someone else's grass over there and say, "Wow, look how get caught up in there," right? It's so easy to do on social media to look at other people's marriages. People in your church are like their marriage looks perfect, and but you didn't see them fighting in the car on the way there,
Right,
and
right.
looking over at the other person's grass, you can't see the dog poop on their lawn from here. It just doesn't. It's kind of a blur, right? Especially with my eyesight, it just looks really nice and green. So rather than getting caught up in comparison, whether it's in Hallmark or in movies, obviously, all the opportunities that are all around us to look at other things that are
And
polished and
social
perfect.
media is like
Yeah.
huge
Oh,
for that
yeah.
these days when we're just scrolling and seeing the best of what people have to offer and what the
Hmm.
curated versions are of them. That is huge as well. So yeah, we have like
Yeah,
when
so
we try
not
to,
getting caught up in getting doing that, but water your own grass.
yes,
Don't
yeah.
spend your time and focus trying to be like someone else or coveting
Mhm.
what they have, because
Mhm.
coveting is really the source, is one of the top 10 commandments. And the reason it is because it leads to so much of all the other ones, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
rather than getting caught up in that, but water your own grass.
Mhm.
Spend time like we're doing today, or like the listeners are doing today, being intentional about how can I make my marriage better? What can I do to make this better?
Mhm.
I'm gonna make this the best that I can make it, rather than looking around at they seem to have it good. Well, make this good.
Mhm.
Mm.
Put our time and attention here to make this good.
Yeah, and I'll just add too, I know there's a lot of spouses who might not have their spouse on board.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like this is something you could still read individually and get so much out of. I feel like so many people, marriages, end up in counseling situations or wherever, reading books so that you can change the other spouse.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want him to change. I want
Hmm.
her to change. But the best thing that we can do when we want to change our marriage is draw a circle around ourselves and change everyone in the circle. And
Hmm.
if we start with us, if we start with ourselves and we're not finger pointing, we drastically improve. If I improve, then I'm actually improving 50% of our marriage.
That's
Like the
right.
odds are with us here.
Yeah.
And so I would say
And, and the
start there.
and the other thing about I'm doing a Karl Rove here, except without a whiteboard. The other thing about the triangle is that even if only one of you is on the journey moving closer to God, this distance between you two is actually shorter than this one.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
even one of you making the effort to try and get closer to the Lord, it makes a difference. It's going to make things better because you're going to be more Christ-like. So you're going to be more
Mhm.
forgiving. You're going to be nicer to live with. You're going to be more patient. All of those things. It's going to make your marriage better, even if it was just you.
Yeah. So
Right.
hopefully they find all of that in here is just some good nuggets of wisdom, stuff we've learned from the experts, stuff we've learned just because of our own mistakes, trial and error, and then most importantly, things that we've learned from scripture that will strengthen us as a couple.
Hmm.
Well, that is fantastic. Such great advice. Now, I want you to tell people how how would they go about if they did want to bring you into their church or their community? How do they go about doing that?
Well, marriedup.net is our website, and there's several buttons there they could click, or they could
Mhm.
just, if you want to remember it, they could email Dan at marriedup.net, or there's buttons there if you don't want to. If you just get to marriedup.net, you'll be in a good
You
place
can
to
find it.
you'll be able to make that
You'll find
happen.
all the good
Yeah.
things there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you married up on Instagram. And
Hmm.
is there anywhere, of course, your podcast, Married Up, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's everywhere
You'll
that
find that all on the
podcasts
website. Yeah.
are. Hmm.
And
okay,
yeah, anywhere that podcasts are, you can find us there.
okay, and
Yeah,
then
and we bounce all around the country and North America, really, especially since we're originally from Canada,
yeah,
visiting and ministering in churches.
Live events.
We
Yeah.
live events. So yeah, we love to do it. Happy
Mhm.
to do it.
that's great. Yeah. Well, maybe we can have you to little old Fountain Inn, South Carolina. So I
We
think
love
Oh,
it'd
I'd
it.
be
be a
glad
We
lot of
love
to.
it.
fun.
It's been fun for us as Canadians. I've spent a lot of years touring across Canada, been all across Canada, but it's been fun for us to go to new places and see new things in the United States, and go to Colorado this past year and see the mountains. That was new, so it's fun. We
Yeah.
love it.
Where are you from in Canada?
Brantford, London,
Toronto
near
area, somewhere
Toronto,
between
Okay.
Toronto and Detroit. Yeah.
in
Okay. So
Ontario.
you're kind of in the down
Down
part
in the dip.
of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. All right. Yeah. My dad grew up on the St. Lawrence Seaway, upstate New York,
Okay.
which Montreal, I think, is the
Yeah,
Yes.
he
town right
would be
over the
straight
St.
up.
Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I always am curious where people are from in Canada, if they're from that area
Hmm.
or not. But yeah, it's a beautiful country and a lot. When we went there several times, I remember sometimes that they all spoke French and we had no idea what they were saying. So,
And neither do we
We
actually.
don't we
okay.
don't speak French. We had to take
Okay.
it all the way through freshman high school, and I could say a
And
sentence maybe.
it didn't.
Bonjour, au revoir.
Barely. It didn't stick for me. Yeah, I need Rosetta Stone or something.
Well, it has been great having you both on the podcast, and I wish you the best with your ministry and all the traveling that you've got coming up, and
Thank
safe
you.
travels, and just lots of blessings, and that you will be a blessing to so many others.
Thank you so much. It's
Thanks.
been a pleasure.
Yeah.